All right, you guys, welcome to the Final Callout. This is a bodybuilding podcast by competitors because we're tired of fake ass people covering bodybuilding. How you doing today, Vaughn?
Absolutely. I'm doing good, man. Ready to get this going. A good topic
Good.
of conversation today.
So we have to do a little impromptu episode today because they have not released the Tampa Pro lineup. By the time you see this, they probably would have. But we're gonna double down. We're gonna do a quick one on the Tampa Pro here pretty soon. So today we are gonna talk about contest prep, how to have a successful contest prep season. And I feel like the best way to start this conversation is to talk about not successful contest preps that we've had. So we're gonna swap war stories right now, talking about terrible preps that we've had and what went wrong and what lessons we've learned. So Devon, I know you got a humdinger. What is your worst contest prep experience?
Man, so I think it may have been my third show actually, and I was prepping for Battle on the Bay in uh where is it at? It's in Corpus. And I was on a carb cycle, and my coach had me on a high, mid, low type of carb cycle. And one day out from my show, I'm technically on a high day, right? But the dilemma was I start my days at 4 o'clock in the morning, and my coach doesn't wake up till like noon, apparently. And so I'm like, okay, Devon, like everything in your gut knows that like you shouldn't eat this high day, but follow the plan. Like I'm on course. I'm just going to do it. When I hear back from him, we'll move on. The short version is I've eaten 3 or 4 meals by the time he gets back to me. I spill completely over. There's not enough diuretics in the world, and I just know I'm going to look like shit the next day. There's nothing we can do. So now, because I'm not a quitter. I still go step on stage, right? I may have been 200 and I don't know 38 pounds at the time back then. So I'm at the bottom like a super heavyweight like weight class, and I think I ended up in fourth place at that show, and I was livid, just because it was just a lack of attention to detail from the coach, and I
Especially
was like,
that
look,
show too, man.
right, man, and there's a lot of little political internal pieces for that coaching. I call them group, that team.
Wow.
He had a he had a
Team.
core group of people that they all got all the attention. And
Do
what's
uh
really
do I
ironic
do
to
I know
me,
this? Do I know this team?
probably, if you've been here just a
I
few
could take
months,
some stabs at it.
you probably know what
Is it?
team it is. The team is in the name. But they have a get along game. And I was just like on the outside of that. And so I wasn't getting the attention needed, although I was probably his best athlete, which is another weird thing. I felt like, okay, that's weird of you. And so I go to this show, and even more so, William Bonac is guest posing at this show, right? So you got a big pro that you kind of look up to in some aspects is going to be there, and then you fucking look terrible, and you're just pissed at the world. Like I was so angry. If I went back and found the photos, you can see the stage shots of my face is just like, I'm
I'm
hitting all my
here right
shots, but I'm
now.
just not there. Like, and so anyway, we finish up the stage stuff. I walk off, and this is actually a funny little tidbit. I'm walking back and forth across where William and his team are set up at their booth, and he keeps looking at me. I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I want to get with him and take a photo, but I'm so mad right now. I don't even want to talk. So
Like
when I finally kick,
I don't want this to be tied to my memory of meeting William.
yeah, really seriously. So I go and finally talk to him. I actually went back to the B&B, took a nap, had to decompress, and then like came back to the venue. Then went and talked to him and took a photo with him and stuff like that. And he was like, "What's wrong with you, man? You sound like you're really pissed off earlier." I was like, "I was like, this is bullshit." So anyway, we had a little chat with that, which was fun or whatever. But I would say that like maybe not the most challenging prep process, but like having gone through a whole prep and then having it fumbled on the negligence of a coach, that really did something ugly to me, man. Oh, that was terrible.
Did you feel like you were like ready before that? Um, or were you not quite lean enough like going into peak week to begin with?
I think sincerely, I would have gotten second at that show instead of fourth. And the
Yeah.
guy who won was like 5'6", 250 shredded with try glutes. Like, okay. Like, I know I wasn't beating him, but I think I would have been right behind him, which would have been an accomplishment for me at that point in my career. Plus, that would have qualified me for nationals being top two. Not that I was going to go either way. Like I was real big on waiting that out until I was ready. But yeah, it was the fact that I lost to people that I knew I was better than,
Yeah.
and then I could have probably stood on stage a week prior and just not had that mix up and beat those guys. So that's where it was like, okay,
Wait,
well,
so you did compete the next week?
well, I didn't. No, no, no.
Oh,
I
you
said
didn't. Okay. You
had
could
I
have
just
next week.
I just looked better. If it was just a low carb day, incidentally, it would have made the world a difference, right?
You
And I
were
have this
you were
water
already
retention
full,
issue.
and when you did the high day, it spilled you.
Feel me? I mean,
Yeah.
just water everywhere.
Okay.
Um, and so yeah, that did it for me. I was kind of like, okay, I did move on from that coach and stuff, and had better
What
experiences.
was the lesson there? Like if you don't get feedback from your coach in the morning, go with your gut
Go
or
with your gut. I was like, go with what you know. Like, if everything in you is saying, like, I know I need to be tight, like, conditioning is the thing we're aiming at. Like, in that case, I knew that eating that many carbs was not going to yield positive results the day before the show. Like, I knew that. So I would say, go with your gut, go with what you feel is best your disposition. I know we all got the body dysmorphia at some level where, like, you're not sure of yourself. But I was just like, go with what you know so at least you can take responsibility for your outcome, right? Because if I made the mistake and screwed myself, hey man, it's my life, I can do what I want. Like, but whenever somebody else does it that you trust it and trust it with that job, it was just like a gut punch. And so I was just like, I can't live with that. Now, to be fair, I was a younger guy at the time, but like he had a propensity to be like late to the shows. Like he'd come to the show's already started, people that he's coaching, quote unquote, already on stage, like stuff like that. That was kind of a sign that was
yeah.
like, okay, he's got his own little
So
thing
maybe
going on. That's weird.
the real lesson is the discernment on who to who to outsource that trust to.
Correct.
It's yeah, finding a good coach. Yeah, I've always found that like if you're in that position, because I know your mind is playing tricks with you those last few days, right? Well, sometimes the whole last week, and you
Right.
look at yourself and it's like I'm not sure, am I flat, am I full? You can just be conservative and just have like let's say it
Right.
was a high day and you're like I look like I'm close to spilling. I don't know. I haven't heard back from my coach. Okay, I'm just gonna do like you can do no carb or low carb for the first few meals. And then if your coach is like, hey bro, you're still flat, you can add that shit in later. Like
Right.
you can add more, more food. Like you can always add more food. You can't take food away after you've already eaten it. Unfortunately,
Right. No,
they don't make
literally.
that
So
drug yet. They don't make that drug yet.
so
Unfortunately.
no, that was the thing. And I think, to your point, I should have known that too. I should have played that into it. Mind you, this is also early in my like coaching and training career too. So it's
Right.
like, okay, I'm learning a lot of things at that place. But yeah, I really think that the discernment on having a good coach to begin with, is the number one thing. And being as a young man, getting the voice to just go, hey, dude, what the hell? like I paid you for this. Like, let's get this together. Like, we're not gonna play this game, type deal. But at the end of the day, it was a good lesson learned. I was disappointed. And to be frank, like as I've grown in the sport, the level of conditioning that I brought that day, well, I would have even brought, still wasn't to the standard that I need to be, right? So it's kind of like all of it was just good. It was a good learning time. It's better than being where I'm at right now, where it's like I got a pro card on the horizon and not having a fucking clue what's going on. So,
Yeah.
so that's the kind of thing. What about you? What was your worst experience?
Ooh, a few, but the worst one that I've had was honestly it was I'm gonna say it was like my third or fourth competition that I ever did. It was the first competition I did on enhancement. So like the first we'll say the first three competitions I did natural, and they weren't terrible. Obviously, I was competing in the NPC, and I'll be just forthright. The reason I competed in the NPC when I was natural is because I unknowingly took pro hormones when I was in college. They sold that shit at GNC.
They did back
If you
then.
remember, there was a one called Superdrol, which now we know that's just a steroid. It's not even a pro hormone. And all I know is
Yeah,
like, damn, I gained like 30 pounds in a month, and my lower back hurt, and I started getting like puffy nipples. Like this is not it's not a supplement. This is something else going on. So I felt disingenuous by competing in a natural division, even though I only took it for a month and then I flushed it because I felt like I wasn't natural. So
Right.
but either way, that contest prep, it was like it literally almost broke me, man. It literally almost broke me. It also ended with the coach getting sent down the road. I consider him the worst coach that I've ever
I'm
come.
with you on that. Like, I do not like this coach. Like,
Like,
he still puts athletes out every year. And I'm like, mm-mm.
yeah, this guy's kind of fallen off the map. He ended up in some legal and there's some health trouble too because of his practices. But regardless, I'll paint a picture for you. I'm working with this guy for multiple years. He helped me with my first the first time working together. I did it naturally. I came in, I was working my ass off, double days, 7 days a week, plus 3 hours of cardio. Like I was obsessed. Like my nickname was the Terminator because I just kept going, and I loved it. Like I was just obsessed. Like I loved it. It was in the early 20s. Like I had an infinite amount of energy and no responsibilities because I'm just a college kid with no job and a lot of time, and I skipped all the classes because I was just gifted in being able to get good grades without having to show up. So I would
Okay.
train like twice a day, every single day, and I put on like almost no muscle. Obviously, I was overtraining and undereating. And when I started my first cycle, get this. This was his recommendation. He wanted me to start with parabolin as my first compound. As one of my first compounds. For listeners that don't know what parabolin is, it's no longer available, but it is a tren hexyl carbonate or whatever. It's like a long acting form of trembolone, trembolone, the harshest steroid that you can take. Not for first timers. Like you should graduate to that if you ever graduate. Just so I don't use tren at all. Like it's something that I just don't agree with. Like it doesn't agree with me. Sorry, I agree with it, but it does not agree with me.
Right.
Um, that was one of 17 compounds that he prescribed me.
Holy cow.
I'm talking like around the 3 gram mark of androgens alone. And then also growth hormone, the actual prescription was as much as you can afford. And then clenbuterol out the gates, 100 micrograms a day.
Oh, Jesus.
And T3 at 50, that was to be ramped to 100 micrograms a day. No T4, no support anywhere. Well, I looked at this, and luckily I had a friend at the gym who was much older than me, and he saved my bacon. He was like,
Yeah, because
I showed him this because he also get this. He was the dealer, so like you don't
of
ask
course.
ask a butcher if you should buy a steak. He's gonna be like, "Fuck yeah, buy the fillet. That's the one you want because they make money, right?" So
Right.
I showed it to him. I'm like, man, I don't know much about this, but I am reading a lot of forums, and most of the forums I'm reading are like, you should start with like a small dose of testosterone only, and that alone will make you grow. You don't need to add all this extra crap because your body is so sensitive to androgens that like just, you know, 300 milligrams of testosterone, 500 milligrams of testosterone is going to blow you up. And he's like, yeah, that's the dumbest cycle I've ever seen in my life. Not just for a first timer, but for anybody. I don't know where this guy did, other than he probably looked at his inventory list and was like, buy all of it.
Right.
And these are the doses that I want you to take, which maximizes how often you have to rebuy this shit. And he knew I was making good money because I work construction and I had a decent job during the summertime. So yeah, and I was all in. Like I would have probably like sold my kidney to do this stuff at that time. So thank God he was like, no, he's like took a pen, was like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Um, and so I kind of met in the middle. Like I didn't fully listen to him, but I didn't fully listen to my coach. I did do the trend, and then I did the testosterone, and then I did the masteron. And meanwhile, he actually didn't give me a diet at all. He was like, here's your diet. Every 2 hours, I want you to eat 16 ounces of steak and either asparagus or broccoli. And then for your workout, you are going to do a protein shake before and after. Outside of that, that was the diet. It didn't go up, it didn't go down. So it was like instantly zero carbs. And we're talking like 20 weeks out. Like we start
Holy
this.
cow.
And then we started with an hour of cardio twice a day. And I'm like, I don't know anything. So I'm like, that's how they do it. I saw Ronnie Coleman's videos. He's doing cardio every single morning and every single night. He seemed like he
Right.
was eating a whole hell of a lot more carbs than me, though. But maybe it's because I'm not Ronnie Coleman. I'm not that big yet, so I don't need the carbs yet. And he gave me the whole spiel about like there's no such thing as essential carbohydrate. There's essential proteins, essential fats, but there's no essential carbohydrates. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like I'm a sophomore in college.
Sure.
Like I haven't taken any of my nutrition courses yet, so I'm just like, you told me to eat green M&Ms only, and that's what I'm gonna eat. So I diet all the way down. I am, gosh, I didn't even really I got the leanest I'd ever gotten. Like I had a six pack. And then we get to the week of the show, and I'm doing the Contra Costa, which ironically, this is the year that Boston Lloyd won the Contra Costa. And
Oh wow.
we drive down because I lived in Reno at the time, and my ex at the time, we all went down together, and I'm so fucked up by the time I get to the competition, man. Like I am so messed
I
up.
believe it.
I was riding in the back seat. Her and her friend were up front, and I like pass out. We did a 3 day water cut beforehand, so like 72 hours out from prejudging, we cut water completely, and then we started adding in um, diazite at the same time. So like 3 days out, I'm adding in, but luckily it was like a half a tab. But I was doing half a tab in the morning, half a tab at night, and like every day I was doing that. But
Right.
we drove down on because prejudging and finals were on Saturday, so we drove down Friday. On the way down, my ex was getting really nervous and like worried. I was so dry that the inside of my throat and my mouth was bleeding because it was cracked, and so
Oh wow.
she was nervous. And so we swung into like a CVS, and she went in and got those glycerin swabs that they
Hmm.
give people that are on bed rest that can't eat.
Right.
They can't drink water. They're just like on a feeding tube. And she gave that to me, and I was like, "Oh gosh, these are great." But they give you diarrhea too if you have too many of them. I found that out the hard way, which dried me out even more. And then we're carving up on legit like no water at all, dry oatmeal, like oats, eating dry out the Tupperware container, protein powder, dry, spooning it into your mouth, chicken, even like the any pills that you took were just like try to create some sort of saliva to like drop it down the hole. And he's like telling me that, okay, right before you go to bed tonight, I want you to go out and buy like a big angel food cake. And I want you to sprinkle some of this protein powder on top of it so you're getting your protein in. And I want you to eat the whole angel food cake. Wait, I was so excited, man. Like I hadn't had sugar or like any carbs and like freaking ever. It felt like angel food cake when you are dry and dehydrated is the worst thing in the world to eat. It just like
I can imagine, dude.
sticks in your throat. But I choked that son of a gun down. Next morning, I woke up. I'm very dry, and I'm ironically. Luckily I was young because I still filled out a little bit. Like my stomach wasn't like distended. And he's like, "All right, you're gonna go to a breakfast place. I want you to eat pancakes with syrup. I want you to get some eggs." And I think that was it. I think it was like pancakes and eggs, very normal, like shitload that you would see in the old
Right.
days. And so I thought that was a great idea too. The eggs were really easy to eat, by the way, because they were like easy to get down. But the
Right.
pancake, it was like every bite you took, all of that syrup was like sticky, and it just like sucked more moisture out of your mouth. I was so big. Blood sugar was probably through the freaking roof. I get to the competition, and I'm backstage, and mind you, I'm supposed to go in a novice class, right? Because I'm like
Hmm.
22 years old, and I'm backstage, and so we have some time. We have bodybuilders always have time because we're always like last. So I lay down on the floor. The Contra Costa is a huge show, so they don't let anybody backstage, like just competitors only. Like not even coaches were allowed backstage. So I lay down. Next thing I know, I wake up to one of the expediters like shaking me, and he's like, I woke up. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, dude, they've been calling your name for the last like 30 minutes. Your class already went. You missed it. And like we already bought the tickets, we already bought the hotels, we spent the money to come down there. I'm like, what do I do? Like, okay, is there anything I can do? He's like, well, open is up, so let me talk to the promoter and see if we can't get you in on open. Luckily, they let me get on open, and I ended up placing seventh out of like, I don't know, like 20 something people in the light heavyweight class because I was a light heavyweight at the time. And
Hmm.
I was just so fucking mad. so fucking mad
I
because
believe it.
I knew that like I was so messed up that I just passed out backstage because I was so messed up. And that was the most important day of my life at that point, and I slept through it. And so I was so absolutely distraught that literally like we went to lunch after prejudging, and lunch is burger, fries, and one Diet Coke, right? And you're like,
Right.
you
That's the
feel
thing.
like
That's a
you're coming
standard.
back to life. And when I came back to the finals, like even the judge was like, "Hey man, like what happened this morning?" And I was like, "Oh, this is what happened." He's like, "I can tell like you had like no water in your system, like you were dangerously dehydrated." He's like, "Whoever you're working with, do you have a coach?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, don't work with that guy. Like that guy's bad
Yeah.
news. I don't know who he is, but whoever would do that to their athlete, because I explained to him the carb up process, the dehydration process, not even the drugs or the dehydration or the sorry,
Right.
the lack of carbs for prep. He was like, that guy should be like never allowed to work with athletes ever again. And so after prejudging, after finals, like he wanted to go. I literally just ignored his phone calls and just like went to dinner with my ex. We went to the hotel. We spent the night. We drove home the next morning, and he owned a. This might give away who he is, but he owned a Max Muscle in Reno. I um I never went back and shopped there. I started shopping at the competitor store, which is NutriShop, like literally, so I
Hmm.
didn't have to see him ever again. And it wasn't until like years and years later that I ran into him, and he was like, "What the hell, man? What the hell?" Like I was like, "Don't what the hell me? Like you know
Well,
exactly."
seriously, you know what happened.
And
Get out of
and
here.
so that actually set me down the path of like figuring out what the heck a good coach actually did. And my first real coach was, do you know who Skip Hill is? So
Mm-mm.
Ken Skip Hill, he's been around for freaking ever. He's known for skip loading and like he's a lot like you're talking about a lot of carb cycling stuff that he does. But I did my next show with him, and it was like, I can't believe I'm eating like 300 grams of carbohydrates. And I never did more than like 45 minutes of cardio. And he looked at my cycle and he was like, yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that. He like gave me the bare minimum of what I needed to get ready. He's like, dude, you're 23 years old. You have yet let, you don't have that much muscle. You don't need that much shit. He's like, if you need more than that, then we got other problems. Like you got to sort your diet out, whatever. But I ended up winning my first show the next year, and it was like I look back and I was like, that show was so easy. But if I wouldn't have went through the crap first, I
Hmm.
wouldn't have known that like that's not what prep's supposed. You're not supposed to die during prep. You'll suffer, but you're not supposed to die. So that was
Right.
my horror story.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll lighten the mood a little bit up. So the point of this podcast, or at least this episode, is to how to set up a successful prep. And obviously, this is a big topic, and we don't want to take your whole week talking about it. So we'll come back to this topic. So today, we're really just going to talk about first and foremost, how do we set up a successful prep? And in my opinion, and Devon and I both agree on this, successful preps are made in the off season. Would you agree with that, Devon?
Absolutely. That's everything.
So what is your when you're looking at your contest that you're looking for? So right now you're looking at nationals and you kind of just finished your off season. You're in like a holding phase before you start really pulling down. Um, for you, like what is your objective during the off season when it leads into a contest prep? So like let's say you're planning your whole year. Like how do you go about that process of like this is my off season. How much time do I need? How much time do I need for prep? What do I need to accomplish during the off season to set me up for a successful prep?
I think the first thing is you need to reserve your tools for your prep. And what I mean by that is this: when you're thinking about going into that calorie surplus, you need to navigate minimizing how you're increasing it so that you don't have to do a ton of cardio in your off season so that you have that tool getting ready to start, but also to minimize any excess fat storage from jumping too often or too high in one sitting so that you're not going. I like to think that as far as off season goes, and this is pushing it, this is really guys, absolute fattest you should ever get, no more than 14 or 15% body fat. If you're beyond that, then you need to you recalibrate at some level and mini cut back down because at that point you're also going to be reducing your ability to utilize all your nutrition anyway, right? So let's make sure we're staying below that 15%. Um, Honestly, as tight as you can stay and still adequately grow. And hopefully you have some other markers that you can base it off of. If you've done several off seasons and it's like, well, between these two shows, I gained 8 pounds after taking 10 months off, right? If I'm able to stay relatively lean and still scale my weight up adequately at a similar rate so that you're not losing out on that, then you need to be doing that. Now, again, I know we're talking in like a lot of vague concepts a little bit here because yeah, because obviously we don't know everybody's individual like processes or what they need. But that's my thought process. Um, be as lean as you can while still putting on tissue throughout the process. Minimize the cardio that is necessary. If you're a bigger guy, do some cardio, heart health, be healthy, that whole deal. And then, of course, before you run into your prep, make sure that your blood work and everything is prepared for what you're about to have to go through. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Those few things really set your off season right to get the prep started right. And to put that in perspective for me was my last quote unquote off season actually came from me being way out of shape, like 335 fat, then having to cut down to like a healthier weight. But then because of the timeline, having to push weight up again. So then I had to cut again. And to put it in perspective, guys, when that happens, I had to lose 75 pounds and then come back up like 10 or 12 to land at my best show look, and I still need to be more conditioned. So like that's why you don't want to be in that position. 75 pounds on any amount of a prep is a lot of weight to lose.
Unless you're a freaking 400 pounder, like that's a
Well,
huge
right.
percentage of your body weight, man. That's even at 300 pounds, that's a large percentage of your body weight. Yeah, I'm in total agreement. And every year in the off season, I've maintained a leaner and leaner physique. I've kept the off
Yeah.
season much tighter. I think our first priority in the off season obviously is to progress, right? Like we're trying to
Right.
accumulate tissue. But the whole like 14-15%, just so people have an idea of what that looks like, you should still be able to see at least the outline of your abs, right?
Yep.
And
And
probably
my
some lines in your legs. Like you should not
mhm.
have a gut. You should not. Like here's my rule: is if I am not comfortable sending my check-in photos in my posing trunks,
Yep.
that if I got a muffin top, that's a bad idea. And if that happens, like let's say you're going through your off season and you do get a little aggressive with the calorie surplus, which I think people do. Like we love to eat food, but like it's not about the scale, it's about how much muscle you're gaining. And
Hmm.
muscle doesn't, you don't gain that much muscle during a year. Like there's only so fast that actual muscle tissue is going to accrue. So like if we do the math of like, let's say you have a great off season, which for most people, a great off season, for me, it's like if I gain 10 pounds of stage weight, like of actual true like skeletal muscle in an off season, that was a phenomenal off season for me.
That's like top tier off season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you look at like if you were to buy like 10 pounds of steak at the store, like that's what 10 pounds of muscle look like. That's a lot of meat, man.
Yeah.
So like if we do that math, that's less than 1 pound a month, right? So
Yep.
it's if we're getting, 2 to 3 pounds a week, like you are going to get fat. And
Yep.
when we get too fat, meaning we go above that like outline of the visible abs, we skew a lot of things. So the first thing is like insulin sensitivity gets really jacked up. And all that
Hmm.
does in physiology, it's called the P ratio. It's the way that our body partitions nutrients. Like when you're eating calorie surplus, when you're super lean, your body has a propensity to drive more of those excess calories into muscle, glycogen,
Right.
etc. But at a certain point, when our body fat accumulates higher, our insulin sensitivity gets like basically trashed. We start shuttling more of that stuff just into excess body fat. So you're actually not growing tissue. Your insulin is driving fat storage more than it is muscle storage.
Literally. Yep.
And then it's actually like a very perpetuating cycle because when the adipose tissue grows, or you get more of it, adipose is actually an endocrine organ, meaning it's not just a storage hormone or a storage organ. It actually affects the conversion of testosterone to estrogen.
Yep.
Within adipose tissue, there's the aromatase enzyme is actually created in adipose. The more fat you have, the more aromatase enzyme you create. Meaning, if you take testosterone, because let's be honest, bodybuilders take testosterone and less of that testosterone is being used for the stuff we want it to be used. More of it's converting into estrogen. which is going to just further exacerbate the problem, but it's also going to create blood pressure problems. It's also going to create just water storage problem. There's so many issues that come along with just getting too fat. So 14%, 15% is like I would say the upper limit. But honestly, if you're on androgens, if you're an enhanced bodybuilder, it probably even should be shifted a little lower because
Right.
you can stay lean and still grow. Obviously, we don't want to be staged lean all year long. We probably are going to inhibit some growth there. But John Jewett puts it the best that I've heard is you want to get to a body fat in which you're in that range, but you perform the best in the gym and you're still getting stronger and progressing week to week. And the best proxy we have for gaining muscle tissue or knowing we gain tissue because it's hard to tell is our performance improving in the gym? Are we
Correct.
getting stronger? Are we increasing reps? Are we increasing our ability to have really good effective workouts? And you'll notice when you get too fat, you stop getting pumps in the gym. You start
Yep.
feeling like dog shit in the gym. You stop performing very well, and that's a bad sign. So if I crop over that, I will actually do like a little tidy up phase in
Yep.
in the middle of my off season because I'm a fat boy at
Yep.
heart. Like, I love to eat food,
Me and
and
you both, brother.
I will do a I don't call it a mini cut because I feel like that's not really effective,
A
but
thing.
I will do a tidy up phase where it's like it might be 8 weeks where I'm like, cool, I'm gonna bring calories down, I'm gonna drop a little bit of body fat and get my body fat back into that range again, and then I can push forward, and then my appetite's better, my performance is better, and all that stuff just works better. So to me, that's the points you made about how to start the off season with health and also that's I think that's solid. I just wanted to give some clarification on what that 14% looks like because we talk to people like oh
Right.
I'm 8% body fat. You look down like
No, you're not.
no, you're not 8% body fat. Like
You're like
vitals
12 or
on weight
13 if you're lucky.
are if we're talking about DEXA scan, like if you're getting 5-6% on stage via DEXA scan, you are shredded. You are absolutely peeled inside out. On calipers, you might be 3%. Was that Ronnie
Yeah.
Coleman on Joe Rogan's podcast said that he was
Yeah. He was
if
like, I
some
was
percent.
no
I'm like,
body fat.
someone skip math class. Like
It's
it's not
okay.
true.
You're Ronnie. We're going to let you get away with it because
Because you're
you're
Ronnie.
king, but like,
Yeah, yeah. Did
but
you
we
hear
know it's
the
not
words that are
real.
coming out of your mouth? Like, how do you have a negative? Like, when someone lied to you. So yeah. So with that being said, how much time do you like? Assuming that the criteria was met, you kept in a good place. Your body fat is in a good spot. You're eating plenty of food. You're not doing a shit ton of cardio. Your tools that you're talking about. So whether it's your androgen use or obviously we're not using fat burners during the off season, but those are at a
Right.
minimum. Assuming that all those boxes are checked, how long do you like to give yourself for a successful like prep? Like, because I think that's a really important thing. Like, we need to give ourselves plenty of time.
I think every person should do a between 16 and 20-week prep every time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, and obviously shoot for the 20-week mark, right? Like, why? Because having more time to fine tune and to lose slower so that you can retain as many of those gains as possible has never been a bad thing. It's just that simple, right? And also, this is something else. I actually just thought about this. I saw one of John Jewett's posts earlier today where he's talking about falling in love with the physique, not the date, right? Like, I love that he said that, because it's like you need to look the part. If you get so caught up in the date and get 12 weeks out from a show when you get ready to start a prep, you're going to do so many excessive things trying to hit a number or trying to hit again, land on the date with a quote unquote right look. You're going to have a skewed perspective on that unless you have the time to find the look, right? And also, again, granted, we're temporarily amateur bodybuilders right now, but at the pro level where it doesn't really matter which show you actually do fundamentally, like there's only so many national shows. We have to land on one of these national shows, right? At the pro level, is like any of these shows in this window are Olympia qualifying for this year, right? You may be able to do a show sooner or optimally be able to do a show sooner, which John always ends up doing for the most part because he's always in shape.
He's a
Um,
dude that doesn't need 20 weeks. He needs like 8 to 10 because he's like always
right.
like very, very lean.
But yeah, I would just say to give yourself time,
Yeah.
16 to 20 guys, like fundamentally, if you just started for the first prep, maybe 20 weeks is like hard on your brain to consider. 16 weeks is an absolute must.
See, I would say that I like the 16 to 20, and I agree with that for a lot of reasons. But I would say the earlier you are in competing, err on the side of more weeks. because
Right.
there's certain obstacles you're going to come up against in a prep that you don't even know what you don't know. Like I've yet to have a prep
Right.
where I've had nothing come up. Like whether it's most of the time it's illness or little injuries or I mean, shoot, I've had like serious life events like my dad having a stroke in the middle of my last prep. Me like there's been just so many things that I could go into that you have to account for that time. And the last thing you want to do is be stressed out. And when you're stressed out and having to like make up time, like you said, you make the decisions you have to make to get on stage, right? So instead of thinking about what you said which is how do I bring the best physique to stage, you think about how do I bring the best physique I can bring to this date, and
Right.
it makes for a suboptimal look. So what I like to do, and this is what I did with this contest season, is I look at a window of time of which I want to compete. So like I want to compete in the fall of 2025. So I start planning my timeline out in the spring of 2025. This is when prep is going to start. This is around the window that I want to compete in. I identify several shows that are a few weeks apart from each other. And then, if I'm ready, I do the first show. If I'm not, then I could always do the second or third or fourth one. And
Right.
I don't really commit to a show per se until I know
Right.
like I will be ready for that show. Now there is a caveat to that, obviously, with you with nationals, with me with Masters USA's, like those are hard dates set in stone. Like there's not a second option of nationals after nationals. I mean, you could do the Arnold Amateur, but that's like all the way in like freaking what, like March,
February, I think.
right?
March, yeah.
You've got a long time after. That's a different prep. So, and at the pro level, they have the Olympia or the Arnold. Those are hard dates that like, okay, but these guys are pros. That means that they've done this a lot. They know, they should know. We still get a lot of people that don't show up on stage though, that are in shape.
I was
And
gonna say,
that's just because they think they get in shape in like that minute of time, and then something came up, something happened.
yeah,
So
always happens.
I think the timeline is very important, but also understanding how long it takes you personally to get in shape. So I know for me, um, I lose body fat really fast initially, but then it's like a slow grind at the end, right? So like
Gotcha.
I need a certain amount of time in a deficit. I always do better between that 16 to 20 weeks. I've done 12-week preps in the past. I've done, successfully 12-week preps in the past. But the things I have to do to get in shape in those 12 weeks, it does never lead to like, okay, that's a good look on stage. That's a lean look. That's a stage ready look, but it's not a peak look. I'm not full. I'm not fresh. I look like I had just been through the ringer to get there. And guess what? If it's tight, you're not going to win those because someone that does look fresh is going to beat you. And it's not
Yep.
enjoyable. Like it's not a good experience. Like you want to get on stage and you want to own it. You want to own that stage. And if you don't have
Heck
energy for
yeah.
something like that, there's not amount of carbs in the world those last few days that are going to bring you back to life. Like you're still going to look like death. So that's a
Absolutely.
little piece of advice. Are there anything other things that you account for when you're thinking about how long it takes you to get ready for a show?
Well, for me and guys, this is super important. I know it's tedious to get blood work done, but go get the blood work done at before you start your prep. But I would also say get it done 8 weeks into your prep. And this is why I say something like that. For me, I can lose weight pretty aggressively because I can when I come to pulling food, I don't get flat when you pull my carbs. I can drop weight, but like
That's half of your genetics, bro.
so I can pull weight and I don't really feel like I'm suffering too poorly, but I have a water retention issue if I don't navigate my estrogen just right. So for a
Mhm.
lot of people, it's like, hey guys, keep in mind that like body fat and water weight do not go good together. Okay.
No,
So
that's a
if
great
you're
point, though,
holding
man. That's a really good
but
point.
it deceives how far you think you are from show day.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we talked about this in my last prep, man. I dropped like 12 or 13 pounds peak week to like land at a number and then try to
You know
carb
that's
up
not
from
body.
there.
You know that's not body
It,
fat.
it's not possible. I couldn't lose that. Exactly. So it
No.
was just like, how'd you do that? It was like, well, it wasn't good, but I knew I was holding water, but it's like, how do I navigate that? The reality was it was kind of too late, but I had my estrogen was high. It was way too high. So now we have to use a diuretic. And as you know, you use a diuretic, you to come back from that is really difficult, like to bounce
Sometimes
back
it's
and fill out.
impossible. Sometimes you
Right.
can't come back. If you're over diuretic, it's a fluid issue. It's not a carbohydrate issue. So like it's hard to defend.
Exactly.
But
And so
bring
and you
uh, because we think about blood work as like a health thing, right? But
Right.
you're also pointing out that in order for you to perform and like to get the most out of your prep, like making sure that your hormones are in order. Because for instance, like let's say you knew that like 8 weeks out that like man my estrogen is running a little high, you would adjust things, right? Like you would probably add in
Right.
like an aromasin or a Remedex, or maybe bring the testosterone level down just a little bit, or add in
Right.
some other DHTs like primobolan or something like that to counteract that. Your cycle design would change, so that it would accurately reflect where you were body composition wise, which I'm
Right.
sure like Roland would, his coach, he would look at you and be like, okay, now I know exactly where you're at. I know exactly what manipulations to make with the diet and cardio to make sure that we can actually peak you properly instead of like, I don't know why this guy's holding so much freaking water. So like, I like pre-prep, always having blood work. It's like I call that the green light. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 if you do
Literally.
not have clean blood work. I also like it during when things are expected to be the most broken they can be. Right.
Hmm.
So I like the peak exposure. Like for me, it's generally like 4 weeks out from a show. Generally, right at I would say before the any orals would come in. So like if you are someone that would use like Winstrol or Anavar, or some people do use like halotestin or something like that to harden them up. I use that term loosely.
Right.
For the end. You kind of want to check things before you throw those in, right? But
Right.
also it's going to show you
Make
this
sure
is
your
the
liver, kidney
system.
enzymes are on point.
Yeah, you don't want to be like driving your kidney and liver into the ground, because also that's going to affect your look too. But like you kind of want to know what the system looks like under the most stress, because if
Hmm.
it's breaking, then you're like, oh, that quite frankly, there are certain people that are like it's unfortunate, but their insides were just not built for this sport, right? For
Right.
the enhanced side of the sport, right? Like you put someone under a lot of stress, specifically pharmaceutically, and they can have an amazing genetic response to training, and they have great structure, but you throw it in, and they're like, oh my gosh, the moment they smell freaking trembolone or anavar, their body just collapses on
It
the
shuts
inside, and you
down. Yep.
get all the side effects, and you're like, yeah, sorry, but like, I wasn't blessed with a great, drive, so I'm not a good golfer. So like, hey, like we're not all blessed with the same gifts. Other people they can run everything in the house, and
Right.
you wouldn't even know they have perfect blood
Can I
work,
be honest with
better
you?
work than your neighbor.
Next to my estrogen, like all the other stuff, whatever, you can run trend high, I'll sweat, but I'll sleep as well as I normally sleep. You
Yeah,
can, all the orals, like whatever, like my body doesn't really care so much. And even with the diuretics, I was running diuretics so high, my coach was like, are you pissing brown? Like, are you
you were
okay? I
telling
was
me
like,
about how much I'm like, dude, like
I was like,
my
coach,
kidneys hurt
honestly.
just hearing those numbers. I'm kidding.
And
I'm kidding.
no, but seriously, no, they were pretty high. But the thing was that that's how much water I was retaining, and all of that came from just the estrogen. So it's like as far as the compounds I can tolerate, as far as how I feel, come a little less relevant because if they're going to aromatize, and I'm not going to combat that in some way, then I
Off the
still can't run
list.
them.
Yeah,
Like
and you
yeah,
would know that.
so
You would not know that if you did not have blood work. So like getting that checked is huge. Also, like so pre-contest or pre-prep, peak exposure, and then I also do it post-show. Like it's generally like
absolutely
2 weeks after the competition's done, once everything kind of settled. And I don't really like. I'm a big believer in if you are going to do a rebound or a health phase. Like I know there are two different ways that people go post-show. Either
right,
you should have your blood work and you should be able to like have a green light of health before you push. Like for me, if I come out of a competition and I do my blood work and it's skewed, which luckily, knock on all the wood, I've always had pretty clean blood work. Like if I had skewed markers, I wouldn't rebound. I would not push calories. I would not keep gear in. I would reduce down to like a TRT cruise phase, go just health, and really focus on that until that was restored before I
hmm
entered like my off season for the next season. But again, I would not know this unless I got blood work, and it's not hard to get anymore. Like it's not expensive. It's not you don't have to talk to your GP. You can just order
right,
that. Like there are plenty of services that it's not that expensive to just order online, go fill it at LabCorp, and then if you don't know how to read it, you should be able to. Well, for one, you can send it to us, but two is reach out to your coach.
right.
Like your coach should be able to read
Really, to
it.
your coach. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's not even that hard. If you got the patience to sit down and like Google what each one of these things means and what that means for your body, and then
You
what you
mean
need to do, you can do it.
You didn't have to anymore, man. You can upload it to ChatGPT
Oh yeah,
and
that's
say, can
right.
you diagnose or can you read this for me and give me best practices to fix the numbers that aren't in range? And it will show you exactly what the best practices are. Oh, your hematocrit's a little high. You should probably look at, bloodletting or, phlebotomy, or maybe you should look into
Yeah,
red yeast rice or slow niacin. Like it'll give you a bunch.
exactly. Yep.
They're like, oh, thank you, ChatGPT. I call mine Jude. She's
Yeah.
awesome. So, so yeah. Do you have any other I guess best practices that you prefer, or maybe things that you see separate those, because we all know these people. There's two types of people that compete, especially at the amateur level. Those that are they're never lean enough in their own mind,
Hmm.
so they end up on stage looking like they just did a concentration camp, and they're emaciated looking, they're completely like burned out, or the ones that are they think they're way leaner than they really are, and they get up on stage and you're like, no, your gym bros lied to you. That gym lighting was super nice to you, but these stage lights, they'll tell you the whole story. You were not ready. You're 8 weeks out or worse. Like, versus the people that have a successful prep, which I would dictate that as like you got actually stage lean. Like the
Yeah.
amount of muscle you have, that's a long term game. But like we can all control how much leanness we bring to stage. What are some of the things that either you do or you see top level amateurs or pros do that separate those that are ready or have good preps versus those that have those previous ones I talked about?
So in my opinion, there's two pieces. One of those is going to fall directly on you and your execution. The other one's going to fall on your coaching and or your support group or your circle, whoever you're going to get feedback throughout your prep. First thing is you need to have adequate and consistent photos and check-ins. Guys, go through the trouble, get the backdrop, stand in the same place, try to do it the same time of day. Hell, I don't care. Take the same number of steps before you walk over there. Whatever you got to do to keep consistency, on your check-in so that we have an adequate read. Because I'm telling you right now, if if you don't do this and you're not sending your check-ins consistently, you don't know what you're really seeing in the mirror. You see yourself every day. You're making micro changes from day to day that you're not going to be able to observe. Um, so you need to have the check-ins. Make sure you do the best you can to give your coach the best opportunity to assess them correctly. Also, I would argue, if possible, you need to get in front of your coach in person if he's local, so he can see you because your pictures are not going to be honest one way or the other. Either going to make you look better, they're going to make you look worse than you actually are, and potentially that can skew your outcome. Secondly, is you stop self-assessing if you know you have a disposition, and this is what I mean. If
Yeah,
you're a guy who's like,
that's
I
why.
know that I'm so stressed about getting lean because I've never been lean enough, or I'm never lean enough in my brain, you're going to over diet or you're going to over something, and you're going to come in stringy and flat. And if you're a guy who is inflated sense of self and ego, a lot of shape guys, I'm with y'all here, believe me. Well, I look good because my waist is tiny, and it's like, yeah, but you don't have any lines anywhere. So, either which way, listen to what your coach says. And back to a previous point we were making, do the vetting early on the coach being reliable and trust your feedback, right? Stop, turn your brain off, send the check-ins. Don't look at it if you got to, like, or whatever, but show up and do what you're supposed to execute. And then optimally, if some of us are coaches, so like as much as I may have my own body dysmorphia, you may tend to have your own body dysmorphia. I think we can look at ourselves pretty objectively because we know actually what to look at. I know I store fat in my lower back. How is that progressing? I know that my quads come in super shredded. So like whatever. I'm not gonna stress about that one way or the other. Don't overhack myself on the quads. Look for your weakest muscle groups where you tend to show the most body fat and
Yeah.
isolate that in your comparisons. And it's going to give you a more realistic perspective on that. But fundamentally, trust your coach, trust the plan, and walk it out.
Yeah, so that reminds me, one of my favorite objective methods to do that when you are someone who is bad at analyzing yourself visually is to find your fattest body part, right? Like for
Yep.
me, it's my glutes. Most people, it's their glutes, like that bottom half of the glutes, and you caliper that spot. And let's say and actually John Jewett does the same exact thing. He said, I believe it's like his subscap area. He has Renee like pinch that.
Yeah.
And you want to get that when you're truly lean. Like, what is that millimeter reading on a caliper when you are actually stage lean? And you know that's the gauge. Like, and in that way, it doesn't matter what the mirror says to you. You know that if that spot is lean, everything else is peeled, right? So,
Yeah.
like, if my glutes are, 4 millimeters, like, I know everything else is gonna be freaking skinless, right? Like,
Right.
and so, like, using that as like that is my objective gauge. However, if you have a really good coach, somebody that you trust, that you have vetted, um, you should be able just to default to them. And they should be the type of coach that will tell you, like, you are not there yet. Or, hey,
Hmm.
we got to pump the brakes. You're going a little too fast. I don't want to burn you out. I don't want to run you to the ground. I want you to be your best on stage, not just be dieted away. Which brings up just a side point to that. And this is probably more prevalent at the pro level, but I do see it at the high amateur level too, is too many cooks in the kitchen.
Ooh, yes.
One
Cut that
coach,
out.
one coach. Don't listen to five coaches. Don't have your coach and then have three other coaches telling you what they think too, because you're just going to confuse the shit out of yourself. You're going to cherry pick the advice that sounds good to you and actually
You
probably like
like,
reinforces your own bias. We saw this with Rami was big time, and even Andrew Jack when he first
oh,
came up. It
yep.
was like Rami had everybody and their mama tell him that they were going to help him win the Olympia, and he just got all this advice from everywhere. And he's like, I don't know which one to follow because they're all really good, like really well-known coaches and really good at what they do. But this person says I need to do 3 hours of cardio. This person says I'm perfectly fine right now. I just need to eat more of the anabolic chicken out in Dubai or whatever they serve that stuff. And
Whatever they're doing over there.
what happened? He never got in shape. But then he found Chad, and
Mhm.
he ended up, well, he trusted Chad, right? I think he fully trusted Chad. So he shut
Yep.
those voices down and he only focused on one coach. And that coach, their first shot, if you remember at the Arnold, he came in and he was
Exactly.
he bombed. Like I think he placed like fourth. He was behind like
Yeah, it
behind
wasn't
Dexter
great.
Jackson. I think that was the year that Bonac or Brandon, no, maybe it wasn't the year Brandon Curry won because Brandon Curry won the year before when he won the Olympia. He won those both the same year. I think Bonac won that year. But either way, he was like fourth
Okay.
place. And then Chad, I remember seeing the interview with him. He's like, we won't make that mistake again.
See, that's
So
it.
he stuck with the coach. The coach took ownership. He's like, this was the mistake we made. We learned from it. We are not going to carb up Rami virtually at all because he doesn't need like virtually any carbs at all. And he's not going to pump up because when he pumps up, his body just swells so much that he loses all the lines in his legs. And guess what? He won the Olympia that year. So don't listen to too many people. Find one person that you trust. And then if you have gym partners or gym bros or like even your spouse or a significant other, make sure that they're not just yes men and women that are just telling you look awesome. Make sure that they give you actual objective feedback of like, quite frankly, your spouse or your significant other is generally well, for some people though, they're the best advice because they don't just throw compliments around about
Okay, I
your
get
body
you. I
all
got
the
you.
time.
Okay. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
damn, you're looking lean, or when they start getting nervous because you're getting like,
Because they're like,
are
uh-oh,
you
you
are
look
you
scary.
okay?
Are you
Do
good?
do
Do I
you
need to
need a
feed you something?
sandwich?
Yep. Do I need to feed you something? Then you're like, all right, we're on track.
Yeah, we're on track. When these cheekbones start getting like real sucked in, we know we're on the right track. So that
Well,
is
right.
our
That's good. I'll say this just to kind of just piggyback on that. Just say no to all yes men, period.
for
Everybody
life.
else in your life, anybody who's telling you you're great, judges are looking for your deficits, right? It's just not a good mentality to come into the show with. Anybody who's hyping you up about how good you look, ever, even if you actually look good, it's just like disregard. It's because it's just not going to help you propel and progress yourself. Like you can take it and go, thanks, I appreciate you. Don't be a dick to people, like nothing but like but just know that fundamentally, that's not what's going to matter. What the judges think is going to fundamentally matter. So we're still aiming at the optimal look that the judges are looking for based on the criteria.
Just remember, Steve Weinberger is not a yes man. He will tell you exactly what he thinks,
Ooh,
and he's incredibly blunt about it. Which reminds me of just a quote, and we'll kind of finish with this one: is don't listen to the people closest to you. Listen to the people that are closest to the goals that you have.
yes, agreed.
I think that's
That's
all.
it.
All right, you guys. So we want to hear your thoughts. Actually, this is a great time for y'all to share in the comment section. What is the worst mistake you've made in a contest prep? And also, if you are interested and need helping with whether it's your off season, whether it's your prep, you're trying to gain muscle, you're trying to get lean and shredded, you can reach
Absolutely.
out to Devon, you reach out to myself. We do provide coaching services, and we will help you out. But with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the Final Call Out podcast, and we will catch you guys next week.
Peace.